predicted that this beautiful weather would sweep over us this afternoon. Keogh was even laughing when he got back to the garage, having slung the bike up the road at Stowe Corner. He never got back out in the wet. But now, of course, conditions are entirely different. He was fastest in the dry in free practice 1 and free practice 2. Almost inevitably, this man, the ever-enthusiastic Josh Brooks, was fastest in the wet. Even though it was pouring with rain at 11 o'clock this morning, he was first man out on track. And he was the man who stormed to fastest time in the wet, ahead of Howie Mainwaring and James Ellison. Would you believe, oh, you probably will believe, it's exactly 66 years and 1 day since the inaugural RAC British Grand Prix heralded the introduction of motorsport to this particular corner of Northamptonshire, the beautiful wide open spaces of the Silverstone airfield. And we're back here for the penultimate round of the 2014 MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship. Shaky Byrne, your championship leader by 12 points. John Hopkins, another man who has been in the ballpark around the top 4 during the course of dry weather practice yesterday morning and this afternoon, and yesterday afternoon, James. So looking good.
Yeah, didn't choose to go out for many laps in the wet earlier today, as many of the riders stayed in the garage just to see. The track was really slippy, and those that did go out, quite a few of them dropped off. Howie Mainwaring going well, as you say. He slung it down the road at turn 1. Got back up, no damage, as did Ben Wilson as well. So there was a little bit of crashing. What they reckon is there's something about the new and the old surfaces, the way they work. The new tarmac holds the water a little bit more, doesn't dry out as quick, and they think a little bit less grippy in conditions like this. It's drying fast now because the sun's out, but it's held the water all day virtually.
Danny Buckman was actually saying, why didn't they resurface the old part when they did the new part, and then it would all grip evenly? And said, well, a good point, Danny, but would you have the money to do that?
I was just going to say, you know, they don't get people around with a transit van doing it. It does actually cost a few quid, all this job. Man, Danny's got money. He's family money. He did on the whole lot.
John Hopkins looking like he doesn't want to rush out yet, because the conditions still are slightly changeable out there. As we check out Jenny Tinmouth, welcome back, the lovely lady from Ellesmere Port in Cheshire, making her return to the track. And I tell you what, that made Terry sit up and take notice. A great fan of Jenny Tinmouth as she appears on screen.
We all are.
I've already had a quick word with Philip Backlund, James, to tell him that after his astonishing performance at Assen, pressure on his shoulders now. We're expecting something from the Swede on the FFX Yamaha
Speaking
number
of,
8.
Yep.
And I was chatting to him. He was in the midst of his bicycle pre-race warm-up. He's on a static bike in the back of the garage for 20 minutes to get himself fully warmed up, both in mind and body.
That's not about the warming up. They've actually got a generator on there. He's boiling the kettle, Jack. That's what he's doing.
Well, he certainly passes it off as a good way to get himself ready and warmed up to go. And I think the kettle will have boiled many times over, and he's ready to boil himself out on track. So Philip Backlund, after that, he says conditions are what they are. It's not that he particularly enjoys racing in wet conditions or damp conditions. It's just that he just accepts whatever's out there.
Yeah, and to be honest, nobody really enjoys racing in the wet. It's uncomfortable. Your leathers get wet, and it's just sometimes cold, as it was this morning here. But the fact is, you enjoy the result if you think the wet weather gives you a better chance of getting a result, or a better result than what you'll get in the dry.
He is one, James, get this, of 8 different nationalities out here in the British Superbike Championship. We've got 10, shall we say, foreign riders out of a total entry today of 27. That's quite impressive. Over 1/3 of visitors to our sceptred isle.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is it's a brilliant championship, but the foreign riders see it as a big stepping stone. It's taken really seriously by the teams running in various world championship classes, and so for a lot of the foreign riders, it's especially the Americans and Australians, they see it as a shop window for furthering their career into a world championship series.
So there's former Swedish champion and a former competitor in the IDM German International Championship, Philip Backlund, enjoying, of course, a bit of a surprise introduction to British Superbikes after being in the Super Stock class. Where was it here at Silverstone? He took his first victory last year in Super Stock. It might well have been. And he, of course, got the opportunity when the team parted company with Ian Hutchinson to give himself a chance at having a look at what it felt like being on a superbike. And here he is setting the fastest first decent time, 2 minutes 25.269, which is about 15 seconds quicker than Brooks did in the soaking wet conditions earlier. So conditions obviously a lot better than that. This is Chris Walker, one of the top 6 showdown fighters.
Yeah, tailing Ben Wilson. Like I said, Ben, the number 15 Kawasaki, there's been on his bum this morning. Nothing too much to shout about. He got up and picked the bike up and got it back via the access road. So yeah, not a lot of damage there, just slid off.
At the moment, Philip Backlund, Gary Mason on the Qingdao WK Racing Kawasaki, and Jenny Tinmouth 1, 2 and 3, with Jenny putting in a 2 minutes 28.9. Walker goes 4th behind the young lady with a 2 minute 29.3. Ben on a 2 minutes 30.1. Ellison's out there as well, and Kianari pops in 2nd fastest time with a 2 minutes 26.35. And there is his enigmatic team boss, Mr. Stuart Hicken.
We have just had a couple of races here. There's been the Tri-Options Triumph race and Tri-Options Ducati race, and also the Triumph Triple Challenge. And in both of those races, it's been obviously very similar conditions. You've just been out on track, a lot of crashing, and the Superbike riders will have seen that, and so they'll be really taking it steady. The last thing you want, especially when it's a single bike kind of system we've got going on, you've got to run the bike that you're riding basically and fix it if you bend it. They're taking it fairly steady, and the track condition is changing every single lap because the sun's out now and it's going to be generally getting drier every time you go around. But really the last thing you want to do at this point is throw your bike up the road.
Shaky Byrne goes 2nd quickest behind Backlund with a 2:25.808. Just going on what you said just then, I was struck by how many of the lads were sitting in their garage intently watching the Triumph race before they went out here.
Exactly. You can glean quite a lot from watching the previous races to yours, especially when conditions are like that, you know, especially when they already know from this morning, the Superbike guys know that there's certain parts of the track fairly slippy, others hold the water, and others a little bit more grip. So yeah, you want to see where the riders are in the previous races to yours are falling down, and take a bit more caution on those bits of the track.
So this is Philip Backlund, the fastest man out on track at the moment, so already living up to that reputation he's set himself, the 24-year-old from Sweden, who finished 3rd in last year's Superstock 1000 National Championship, scoring his 1 victory here at Silverstone. So this is a guy who's going to enjoy himself out here. He goes quicker, 2 minutes 23.038. He's well clear as Hopkins decides to go out. Yeah,
Backlund will be making the most of the sunshine because he probably won't see much sun when he gets back to Sweden. It's dark for the majority of the winter up there.
Hopkins decides to venture out into the sunshine as we watch the Milwaukee Yamaha of number 3, Josh Brooks. This, of course, is a 20-minute session of qualifying 1, and that 18 riders go through into the 12-minute second session. So 18 riders out of 27 to go through. Welcome back to Silverstone in, dare I call it, the South Midlands here in Northamptonshire, in absolutely beautiful, shining weather, the sort of weather we've been used to for the past 6 or 8 weeks here in the United Kingdom, with John Hopper Hopkins, the Californian, who is a former rostrum finisher, of course, in MotoGP, former 4th placeman for Suzuki in MotoGP. Ahead of him, number 4, Dan Linfoot, currently in 2nd place. Dan Linfoot in 2nd place at the moment. Hopper, who has put himself on pole position here, of course, back in 2011 in a World Superbike race as a wild card, and enjoyed some success in the World Superbike arena with the Stiggy Motorsports team, remember, a Swedish-backed team.
Yep, it was a Suzuki he put on pole, though. It wasn't the Stiggy bike, just as a wild card, like you say.
So dropping now into Cops Corner. This is the fast, well, in normal conditions, you'd be going through here at about 85 miles per hour in 3rd gear, but obviously things slightly sketchier at the moment, disappearing over the horizon at 160 in 5th gear. And then this fantastic section of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel curves that all just conjoin one another and fling you out onto the 180 mile an hour Hanger Straight. And this is Hopkins going through, avoiding, I would think, the white lines and the curves in these conditions, James.
Absolutely, and trying to stick to the drier parts of the track as well, because it's very patchy at the minute. It is drying out, obviously. It's not raining anymore. The sun's out. but certainly lots of this track is still wet. You see him going through a big puddle there.
This is the situation at the moment. We've got Backlund fastest, Linfoot, Kianari, Byrne, Kirkham, Walker, Ellison, Julian De Costa on the Honda Fireblade, Gary Mason is 9th, Stuart Easton in 10th. Down in the hot seat, 17th place, and it's wonderful to welcome him back. The dashing Dane Robin Harms, number 127, is 17th. Aaron Zanotti is 18th. Christophe Ponson just outside that vital top 18. And of course, we also have Josh Brooks in 22nd place, Josh Waters 23rd, and this man John Hopkins 26th, with Bridewell 27th. So there's a fair chunk of top men who've got to somehow get a time in, and smartly. Josh Waters has just done that. He's leapt up to 4th place with a 2 minutes 24.8 on the other Taiko Suzuki.
Yeah, you would expect if anybody was going to be a master of these conditions, it would be Josh Waters. We've seen just how much skill and kind of feel he has for when it's really slippy and wet.
Josh Brooks has moved up to 13th place, so he's looking more comfortable. Belden Wilson's now the man in 17th. 18th, Barry Burrell on the WD-40 Kawasaki. Robin Harms drops out at that top 18 on the Motordex BMW. Motordex making their return to the paddock here. British Superbikes having shifted their operation from Germany back to the UK. Barry Burrell slips to 19th. Patrick Muff is in there in 18th place. And it's changing all the time. Peter Hickman puts the RAF Reserves Honda into 18th place, nudging the Swiss rider back down to 19th.
Yeah, Hickman I would expect to be higher than this in these conditions. Loves the wet. We saw what he's capable of doing at Cadwell.
Hopkins has just gone quickest, James. Yeah, just like that. Sorry, 22.23.
Yeah, you cut across me if something exciting happens, Jack. So, no, do. You need to do.
So Hopkins at least is summing up with Tommy Bridewell, James. Now he's moved. Tommy Bridewell, just as I spoke, has moved somewhere. He's moved to 17th place with a 227.4, just behind his teammate Josh Brooks. So both the Milwaukee Yamahas possibly need to improve a bit. This is Brooks. The top 18 riders, remember, go through into qualifying 2. There's just under 6 minutes of this session to go. Brooks at the moment is with a best time of 2 minutes 27.2, which puts him precisely 5 seconds behind the leader. Hopkins, Byrne, Backlund, Linfoot, Kianari, Waters are the fastest men at the moment. Some of this area, this particular section, as you're coming back towards the pit area, is very, very dry, James.
Now, there's still some wet bits, and even on the wetter, the sort of drier parts of the track, sorry, you're not seeing much by way of lean angle or aggression. That's really wet, the spray coming up.
And that's as they come hammering round past us now in front of our commentary position. Josh Brooks goes for the inside past number 141, Sean Winfield, and goes 5th with a 2 minutes 24.0. And a bit of relief there for Sean Muir and his team. So that was Brooks, despite perhaps getting a little hindered at the end of that lap.
I would have thought so. Yeah, definitely got sort of held up to the tune of about half a second, I would have thought.
Quattro Plant Kawasaki with the sturdy figure of Pete Exton's bang in the middle there. Keeping an eye on their guys. At the moment, Linfoot is in 5th place ahead of Brooks and Kianari, with Chris Walker 9th.
The even more sturdy figure second from left of Ray Stringer, lad I used to race with quite a lot. A man who was really good in the wet in his racing days, actually.
Was he less sturdy than that in his racing days?
He was still fairly sturdy when he raced, yeah. Not quite that sturdy, I want to say.
He needs to get on that, what was it, a 6-pack in 8 weeks?
No, Matt's been on the 6-pack in 6 weeks, eating nothing but macadamia nuts.
And it's working?
Well, I haven't seen his 6-pack, but certainly, yeah, he's getting through some nuts.
This is Yuichi Kianari on the build-based BMW. Kianari currently in 7th place. One thing you've got to enjoy about Keo is the fact that he's so capable of laughing at himself, James. He came back into the garage and was quite tickled at the fact he'd almost fallen off his warm-up lap this morning and then ditched it on his first flying lap, but didn't seem too perturbed.
Nah, if you're going to slide down the road and you're uninjured and you haven't done much damage to the bike, it's quite easy to laugh off, and you've got to do that. But you don't want to be doing it in a race or in time qualifying, you know, especially with, like I say, this is a one-bike championship. You've only got one bike. You're not allowed to have a spare just sat there ready to go with the right tyres on. You've got to swap and parts on and fix the bike that you've damaged.
Josh Brooks is on a prospective fastest lap at the moment. He's gone pink at the end of sector 2. So that could just mean that he's going to go quicker than Hopkins. He was about 0.8 of a second under at that point on the circuit. So as he goes, shall we say, tiptoes his way through the final complex, round Brooklands, Luffield, and heads out towards Woodcote. And this is where he comes howling past us here at our commentary point across the finishing line. 2 minutes 22.075, fastest time then for Brooks and Milwaukee Yamaha. One thing I've just realised, got to point out here, James, this lady is still, I beg your pardon, this is Peter Hickman, this is no lady. Jenny Tinmouth is 15th and well qualified ahead of Stuart Easton, Julian DaCosta's factory Honda and Ben Wilson's Gearlink Kawasaki. Hickman, number 60, is down in 20th place with work to do on the RAF Reserves Honda.
Yeah, you would think that he's well capable of doing that work, though. Peter normally likes the wet. Some of his best ever results we've seen from him have been in conditions that aren't dry.
But you know what, James? I don't think he was doing his best lap at the first split, but it looks to me as if he slipped a bit on the second one. Yeah, Hickman needs his best lap so far, 2:28.6, isn't near good enough.
I've never seen Peter Hickman riding this cautiously. This is doesn't seem to be much by way of lean angle there, and yeah, he's not pushing on.
He's not getting much grip, is he?
It doesn't seem to be doing it, and that's what it's about when it's like this.
He crosses the line and remains 20th. It's not often I call something right, but I did in this case. So Hickman, 2:28.511. It's his fastest lap so far, but it's 1.2 seconds slower than Ben Wilson in 18th place. So a massive effort required from the tall Derbyshireman stroke Lincolnshireman as we check out Ben Wilson. And then Shaky Byrne. This is Shaky Byrne, who, during absolutely dry conditions here at Silverstone, 32 gear changes per lap for the number 67 Kawasaki. 28% of the laps spent at full throttle. That's an impressive percentage, James.
Yeah, it is, and we reckon that's 28% by distance, not by time. And if it was 28% by time, it'd be more than 28% in distance, because when the throttle's open, you cover more track. So yeah, that is impressive. You don't get that. That's probably one of the most full throttle circuits we come to, I think.
Shaky uses first gear to sixth, incidentally. Sixth gear, he hooks down the hanger straight, crosses the line, now goes first to 21.093. That's almost a second quicker than Josh Brooks. So Byrne, Brooks, Jenny Tinmouth down to 18th place, 2:25.899, ahead of Ben Wilson and Peter Hickman. So Jenny's still just in by the skin of her teeth.
Yeah, but Jenny needs to be out there. She's just gone back out there again. When conditions are like this and they're drying, you're going to see times creeping down, and you need to be out there at the end, because you will slip down towards the end.
So this is Jenny Tinmouth. Can she welcome herself back to BSB with a place in Super Pole 2, in qualifying 2, sorry. Come on, Jennifer. She's not going to get another lap in, so this is, she might have done enough. She might have done enough. She crosses the line, the checkered flag goes out. At the moment, she's 18th. Is there anybody out there on track? Ben Wilson is, but he has not set a time faster than he's done so far. And Hickman is, and Hickman's setting his fastest time so far. Peter Hickman there has got 2 green spots on the timing screen. He's got to beat 2 minutes 25.8. Which is 3 seconds quicker than what he's been lapping so far on the RAF Reserves Honda. Can he do it? He's not at the moment looking like he's finding the grip that he wants, as he's, oh look, it's backing him in everywhere. Comes into Woodcote now. This, the final opportunity then for Peter Hickman to drift his way across. Oh, and he misses it. 19th, 2 minutes 27.1, misses it by a chunk, actually, by 1.2 seconds. He remains 19th. He doesn't qualify for qualifying 2. Jenny Tinmouth surely is through in 18th place behind Gary Mason and Chris Walker. While we were watching that, Josh Walker sprung into, oh, now here's Aaron Zanotti. Where is he? Zanotti's in 24th place. He's been doing, he's got 2 fastest lap splots on his time screen.
That's just for him. Oh, he needs to go like so much quicker to get in. I don't think this is going to happen for him. I mean, it's green, it's his quickest time, but he's
2:25.899 to beat, James. Oh, it's going to be close. 2:26.01. He goes 19th, and he just misses out. And lo and behold, Jenny's surely this time definitely in. Wow. So Shaky Byrne tops the table from Josh Waters, Yuichi Kianari, Julian Da Costa put a quick lap in on the factory Honda ahead of Josh Brooks and John Hopkins. Philip Backlund 7th ahead of James Ellison, James Westmoreland and Dan Linfoot. And then at the tail end there, Chris Walker, who we normally expect to be very quick in these conditions, 16th. Gary Mason 17th. And Gary Mason was 0.2 of a second quicker than this young lady, returning to the British Superbike fray with 18th place and a place in qualifying too. That's it, Jenny. Show off with a wheelie. So Shane Byrne, Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki, is top of qualifying 1 ahead of Josh Walker's and Yuichi Kianari. Julian Da Costa's Honda ahead of Josh Brooks, John Hopkins. Backlund, Ellison, Westmoreland, and in 10th place Dan Linfoot. 11th for Howie Mainwaring Smart on the Quattro Plant Kawasaki ahead of Stuart Easton. John Ingram having a good ride on the Morello Racing Kawasaki ahead of Tommy Bridewell. John Kirkham's Halsell Biker Gear Kawasaki. Chris Walker, Lloyd's British GB Moto. And then Gary Mason and Jenny Tinmouth are the last qualifiers. Out go Aaron Zanotti on the CG8 Stel Suzuki, and very surprisingly Peter Hickman on the RAF Reserves Honda. Also out of the proceedings for qualifying 2, Martin Jessup, Robin Harms on the Motordex Performance First BMW, Ben Wilson's Gaelic Kawasaki, Patrick Moore, impressive at Aston on the BMW, Barry Burrell's Team WD-40 Kawasaki, Christophe Ponson and Sean Winfield. And that was that. We lost 9 of the riders from that, but Jenny Tinmouth will join the boys in the second qualifying session. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Just in the Taiko Suzuki garage here with Philip Neal, and it's following on the back of Assen, which was a fantastic weekend for you guys, Phil. A good start to the weekend here.
Yeah, both the boys are doing exceptionally well, both in dry and wet and sort of intermediate conditions that we have right now. So we're, good start to the weekend.
Josh doesn't like being coined as a wet weather rider, but he just does seem to have that extra bit of, I suppose, skill when it comes down to it in these conditions.
Yeah, we just said that actually. We were just having a laugh. He doesn't like being called that, but you can see on the first 2 sectors of the track are quite dry, and the last one is the most wet, and he had a purple sector up on that last one as the fastest rider on that part of the track. So he just seems to have a unique feel for the wet conditions. I have to say now the boys in the team and the Suzuki bike are both provide a great package for wet weather conditions. I mean, most of our riders over the past few years have been strong in the wet, so maybe it's not just everything to do with Joyce, but we'll give him the credit.
All right, thanks. So I hope it continues like this for the rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Okay, so strong performance from the Taiko Suzuki boys then in Q1. Can they keep it up in Q2? We're going to find out after the break. Welcome back to Silverstone. The sun continues to shine here and the track continues to dry, which is going to make things very interesting indeed for qualifying session 2, which is right now with James and Jack.
Shaky Byrne, the man on provisional pole position at the moment, and right behind him, a man with over 80 national dirt track and long track Australian titles to his name, having started riding that particular discipline when he was just 5 years old. And of course, as James Whittam says, with a name like Waters, why wouldn't you be quick in the wet? The build-based BMW, Yuichi Kianari could have got back out this morning after his spill at Stowe until the sharp-eyed Stuart Hickman spotted there was some damage to that was causing a very slight oil seep from the engine casing, and he thought, no, we don't want to go out and be down on our ear again, so they just sat out the rest of the session.
Yeah, and that's quite unusual because all these bikes, there's a compulsory, you've got to put a protector. It's kind of nylon. I won't say plastic, but it's really tough, kind of nylon-y stuff that you got to put over your casings, because the engine casings are really, really thin. One little sort of, if you fell over in a car park, these things would break. But the actual covers that you get and put on it are tough things. You can slide down the road quite happily on those.
So Kianari gets himself back on board.
There you go, that's not a wet rear tyre, that is an intermediate. It's certainly not a slick, you can see that, but it hasn't got the same amount of tread cut into it that a wet would. Obviously, the theory being that there isn't as much standing water for the tyre to shift out of the way, so they don't need that. And the more rubber as opposed to cuts they've got, and the better that'll be when it dries out. Again, a cut slick on the front. That's an intermediate tyre, not a wet.
And does that make some of the guys say that it's intermediates are somehow either one thing or another? Does that actually make that little bit of a difference when you're out there in these conditions?
Yeah, it does. Two reasons. It warms up a little bit quicker because the rubber's moving around a little bit more when it hits the track, and also there's a little bit of kind of psychological, especially with the front as you tip in. Now we're seeing from Chris Walker, that looks like an intermediate front, it is, and a slick rear. You need a bit more confidence from the front because when you get a front slide, it's a lot harder to save than it is a big rear slide. You feel like you've got control of the rear. Should you not have the front, you don't. Then the first thing you know about it generally is when you're sliding down the road on your bum.
Milwaukee Yamaha going out with exactly the same setup there, with the rear slick and the front cut slick. So intermediate front and slick rear seems to be the order of the day at the moment, and it would be no surprise to any of us to find that Josh Brooks was the first man storming out on site down the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, he's mad for it. He's always waiting at the end of pit lane, he is. Nice to see a man that's that keen, because a lot of the time I don't think that he feels an advantage. If you thought it was going to rain sometime during the session, you'd get out really quick, you'd be queuing up to get out to get a time in. But with Josh, I don't think that's the case. I think that even when there's nothing to be gained by queuing up first to get out, he seems to want to do that. So
I think it's called speed happiness. It's just enjoying being out there riding a motorbike.
I think, and there's something to be said, to be seen to be keen by the rest of your peers, the other riders. You know, it's a lot harder to go and mentally race against somebody who you think is keen and not going to stop so easy. You know, he wants to be seen as a keen and kind of not aggressive. What's the word I'm looking for? Keen, I guess.
Sheer enthusiast.
Enthusiastic,
that's the one. He's certainly that.
Yeah.
And all aspects of motorcycling and motorcycle sport. So Josh Brooks then gets himself buried into the Yamaha's tank and heads off down the Top Gear Hanger Straight, the fastest point of the course then. That of course means it's a very, very fast entrance into Stowe Corner when you hit the right-hander right at the end near Stowe School. Actually, Stowe School and its grounds were featured on BBC 4 a couple of weeks ago. And the first, the fabulous gardens, the first ones ever designed by the legendary Victorian landscape gardener, Capability Brown. And well worth a visit, apparently, folks.
Yeah, I think he did mine, actually.
Did he? And then, well, yours to open it up to the public.
Not quite as big as Stowe School's garden, I have to say.
Across the line, Josh Brooks will be preparing to set a time. Of course, he's coming. Beg your pardon, that's the new finishing line, shall we say, not the one that we're using now. And he swoops through the right-hander there at Village and goes in towards the loop. This is the right-hander at Village. This really tightens up. Second gear drops into it, and then it's the bottom gear for the loop, and then it opens out round and down the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, it's a weird circuit, is this, in that it's so long, and there is two, like you said, there's two start and finishes. One for the, I'm going to say international meetings. I don't know how they work it out, and they're very similar. Not in the look. One's a big, fantastic new building. This is brilliant that we're in, but it's a little bit older. But the shape of the track onto that start and finish, each one is almost similar. Could be sat in either commentary booth at the minute.
Gary Mason has gone quickest right now, a guy who absolutely loves being around and about when the conditions aren't great.
Gary's going to want somebody to take a screenshot of that. I'll tell you.
So the former British Superbike Privateers Cup champion, remember them back in 2009 when he was on MSS Colchester Kawasaki, goes quickest. Brooks takes over though ahead of Waters. Yuichi Kianari tailgating his teammate James Westmoreland on the build-based BMWs. Keo, despite being hooked up behind Westmoreland, looks as if he might be on a best lap here and might be able to nick the advantage from Shaky Byrne as he comes out of the penultimate turn and then keels into Woodcote. The two build-based BMWs running together in the beautiful afternoon sunshine here at Silverstone. Across the line, 2:17.582. That puts Kianari into first place. That, of course, was just a few moments ago, because Josh Brooks has since launched himself to the top with a 2-minute 16.6. Gary Mason, still well and truly on it, had gone back to the top with a 2-minute 17.292. Ahead of Chris Walker, now beginning to show his proper form in these conditions, and Kianari now back to fourth place. This is the fastest man on track. This is Josh Brooks. Remember that the top 10 only transfer through to qualifying 3. So anybody outside that top 10, and right now Tommy Bridewell, teammate to Josh Brooks, is 11th, will not make it to the final qualifying session. This is Stuart Hicken, and shortening his life with the build-up of tension in the build-based BMW garage.
He thrives on it, Jack. Thrives on it. Look at him.
The picture of health.
Correct.
Brooks, Byrne, Mason, Walker, Kianari, Linfoot, Waters, Easton, Da Costa, Backlund. They're your top 10 at the moment. Just outside the top 10, we have Hopkins, Bridewell, Mainwaring. This is number 101. This is Gary Mason, a surprise return to racing for the man from Lichfield.
Yeah, it is, but he's making all his experience count, and it does count in weather like this. It's drying out, it's wet in places, you've got to pick your line, you've got to ride within yourself, and the least little mistake could result in a big, huge crash. And you also got to choose the right tyres, and the experience helps with that as well.
Twice a top 8 finisher in the British Superbike Championship with Virgin Mobile Yamaha in 2003, and with the Stobart Honda, Paul Burt Stobart Honda team in 2005. Also raced in the States, of course, in AMA Supersport back in 2007. So a varied career for the 35-year-old from Lichfield in the Midlands. As he storms across the line, he goes quickest, 2 minutes 15.238. Well and truly putting his experience on the line here. This is Tommy Bridewell. Is Bridewell in good shape? Because he needs to be. He's going for a personal best at the moment. He's outside that top 10 in 14th place. He's not going to be anywhere near that 2 minutes 15.2. Realistically, he needs to get around about a 2 minute 19 and a half, and he does it. He goes 6th. Bridewell then comfortably in, ahead of Linfoot, Kirkham, Josh Waters. Westmoreland is in the danger seat in 10th. He's ahead of James Ellison and Stuart Easton.
Yeah, with 1 minute 50 left, just less than 2 minutes expect times just to keep tumbling. People are going to stay out there. You've got to stay out with them when it's like this, because conditions, even though incrementally, are getting better every single lap they go around. Keo.
This is Kianari. He's currently in 4th place. The guys who really need to put a move on and get their foot down: Ellison, Easton, Julian Da Costa's been pitched back to 13th, Philip Backlund to 14th, Hopkins to 15th.
Yeah, and Hopkins has been really quick in the dry just about every session, so he could do with just sticking his neck out to get him a grip position that's going to do that dry weather form justice come tomorrow.
Well, this is a point at which he's got to prove to us perhaps whether he still wants to stick his neck out, James, because it's
true.
It's quite a big ask in these kind of conditions around a circuit this quick.
Yes, it's true.
Kianari then comes cleaving his way round the final turn at Woodcote, goes second with 2 minutes 15.36, just neatly 0.123 behind Gary Mason. Looking to see if anybody's improving on their code. This is Chris Walker, currently improving his time. His best time so far is a 2 minute 15.7, which is surely adequate enough to get through. Stuart Easton in 10th now, 2 minutes 18.7, means that Josh Waters is into the drop zone with a 2 minute 19.3.
Yeah, didn't expect that.
So Walker looking fairly comfortable, but even Chris looking a little bit cautious at the end of that Wellington straight as he drops into the left-hander at Brooklands.
Yep, you would be fairly cautious in his position. I'll tell you what.
He was fastest of everybody all afternoon so far through sector 2. So as he storms out of the final turn, this is a quick lap, 2 minutes 15.5. He remains though in 4th place ahead of Brooks and Westmoreland. Linfoot, Bridewell, Kirkham. Now the guys who need to put a time in: Josh Waters, number 12 on the Taiko Suzuki's in danger of going out. So too James Ellison, so too Julian Da Costa on the factory Honda Fireblade. Shaky Byrne is currently on a quick lap, could go top on the Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki. Also on a quick lap, we've got Yuichi Kianari. He's just gone through the first split. Dan Linfoot running ahead of number 67, Shaky Byrne. Linfoot is in 9th place. He needs a bit of a... He could do with a time.
He's got it.
And if Josh Brooks goes... Oh, Brooks is...
Byrne quickest, Linfoot 6th.
And that is 6th place for Linfoot. That's a bit more comfortable ahead of Bridewell, Kirkham, Westmoreland and Easton. Kianari is about to take pole, perhaps. We've got so far 2 minutes 15.3, 14.283 to beat that Shaky Byrne's new time. Well, of course, none of these times actually count when we get to qualifying 3. Only the times you set in quali 3. That is a quick one, though. 2 minutes 12.7. Yes. Kianari launched it. Now, this man's got to do something. Josh Waters, number 12, just going out of picture there, is in 11th place. Josh Waters on the Taiko Suzuki. Can he do anything about it, or was that the checkered flag?
No, that was it. I think that was checkered flag. He certainly pulled up.
So Waters, 2:18.72, has missed out. Easton's jumped him by 100th of a second, exactly 100th of a second, to grab that 10th and final place. James Ellison, though, still out on track. He's running in 12th place. He's improving on his 2 minutes 19.8. The question is, can he improve on it well enough? He's got to drop just over a second. So Ellison still returning, of course, from that calamitous thigh injury that he suffered at Brands Hatch. Crosses the line, 2 minutes 16 point. Yes, he does it well and truly. Jumps into 6th place for the Lloyd's British GB Motors team, ahead of Linfoot, Westmoreland, Bridewell and Kirkham. The man who gets relegated, Stuart Easton, along with Josh Waters, Julian Da Costa, John Ingram, Philip Backlund in 15th, Hopkins well out of it in 16th place, ahead of Mainwaring, Smart and Tinmouth. So check it out, the MCE BSB Data Tag Extreme Qualifying Session 2. Kianari tops it by 1.5 seconds from Byrne. Brooks in 3rd place. Gary Mason, an excellent 4th for Qingdao WK, ahead of the Lloyd's British duo, Chris Walker, James Ellison. Linfoot and Westmoreland with Bridewell and John Kirkham go through to qualifying 3, and we have lost Stuart Easton, Josh Waters, Julian Da Costa, John Ingram, Philip Backlund, John Hopkins, Howie Mainwaring Smart and Jenny Tinmouth.
Oh, real disappointment that for Taiko Suzuki after such a promising Q1. A bit of a shake-up there during that session, James, and in the end it comes down to the 3 guys who are fighting for this title.
Yeah, it does indeed. I mean, a lot of that was tyres. You saw when the Taiko guys left, they were on wet rears. You know, pretty much everyone else went out on slick rears. And, you know, you had to get the best of the conditions. But, as you say, it's the same old guys, isn't it? Keogh, Byrne, Brooks. That lap of Keogh's at the end was really, really good. And the other thing you got to remember, in these sort of conditions, when you're running that dry line with damp patches, you've got to really force the tyre in where it's dry to keep the heat in it, but then really delicately sort of tiptoe over the wet bits. So it's a real skill and bravery, and it's easy to make a mistake in those sort of conditions.
Yeah, it does look as though it's going to be a bit drier, though, hopefully now for the final session.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see all the guys now out on slicks, even though it's, you know, a lot of them went with the cut front into front, some of them went on wet fronts, but yeah, I think you'll see everyone now full slicks, front and rear, and really just try and they'll be out straight away. And the quickest lap will be the last lap.
Okay, thanks very much, James. I think we can just take a look actually there at Keogh's intermediate rear. But when we come back from the break, it's going to be full slicks. It's all in the battle for pole. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Silverstone after a wet Q1 and an intermediate Q2. We are all set now for a dry Q3. And a showdown on slicks in the showdown for pole position. It's the penultimate round of the British Superbike Championship here, and there is high stakes as we fight for pole. Ryuichi Kianari, there he is, sat at the back of the garage. He's on full slicks. Jack and James, now we're going to see really who's got what.
Shaky Byrne, 7 race wins to his credit this season. Yuichi Kianari, 6 race wins to his credit this season. And one of them's got to give. Well, one of them did give at Assen when Shaky snatched victory from the jaws of defeat at the final chicane. So it's very, very even, Stevens. 12 points in it as they amble off now to see who can produce pole position here. Dan Linfoot prepares for action on the Quattro Plant Kawasaki.
Yeah.
and gets a pat on the back from Pete Exons to let him know that he's got the support of the crew.
Yeah, what he was doing there was sticking some dry weather knee sliders on. They use double thickness or certainly thicker knee sliders on the leathers in the wet because the lean angles out so much, and some riders like the knee touching the floor, they like that feel, so they put thicker knee sliders on. He's going back to the dry one, to the thinner ones.
Yuichi Kianari, the 31-year-old now, who originally came to this country, well, you know, it's the thick end of 10 years. It was 10 years
exactly
ago.
10
when
years
he
ago,
came in 2004, did the double at Donington Park at the last round. This is Chris Walker feeling his way round on the Lloyd's British GB motorbike. 10 riders are out on track around this mammoth Silverstone circuit. Gary Mason, perhaps the surprise man on the Qingdao WK Racing Kawasaki. James Westmoreland, build-based BMW. Chris Walker, John Kirkham, Shaky Byrne, all three of them on Kawasaki's. Tommy Bridewell, Milwaukee Yamaha. Yuichi Kianari's build-based BMW. Josh Brooks, Milwaukee Yamaha. James Ellison and Dan Linfoot on Kawasaki's. This is Linfoot, number 4, the quiet young man from North Yorkshire.
Yeah, Linfoot definitely went out with a slick front and slick rear. You'll see that the blue and white banding round the middle of the rear tyre denotes that is SC0. That's the softer. You would imagine it would go for the softest option. That is the softest of the options they've got at Silverstone. It doesn't have to last long. They're only going to get 4 or 5 laps in this session.
You know, this is a little bit like, this is about what we had at the conclusion of the red-flagged Supersport qualifying session earlier this afternoon, James. And to see the lads have to go out in these just slightly iffy conditions.
With slicks.
Yep. and have such a short amount of time to get in a proper good lap. And this is, and I think we might have a faller already. It's balancing that sheer effort when speed that you need to get. That's just a hint of caution. It's Bridewell.
It's Bridewell off.
Tommy Bridewell's gone down at farm. The rider appears to be all right. The bike's probably all right, but that will be Tommy starting from 10th place on the grid. He's not going to get anywhere from there. So Bridewell down and out on the second Milwaukee Yamaha. He'll be frustrated with himself because he felt after his performance at Aston he was going to be able to take the fight to Kianari and Byrne here at Silverstone.
Yeah, and he had a little bit of dry pace. He was 5th in the little bit of dry track time that we've had this weekend already. But I've got to say that is so easy to do. Tommy Bridewell might not have done so much wrong, just drifted offline slightly, clipped a little bit of the track that's slightly wetter than it was on, and you can be down the road in the blink of an eye. It's so easy to crash in these conditions. I mean, these things, they're quite easy to get wrong anyway. Is a superbike with sort of best part of 210 brake horsepower, but in these conditions, even easier.
Josh Brooks, who rather surprisingly, James, has only figured out 3 race wins this season. That really is not a lot for the Australian.
It's not by his standards. That's the least for a number of years.
So Kianari, Josh Brooks, number 3. The man who sprang to fame with the Joe Rocket Honda racing team in Australia. Great name, Joe Rocket. I reckon that's going to be a fairly rapid team, don't you?
Yeah, Joe Rocket are a clothing manufacturer, a biking clothing manufacturer. Quite trick stuff. It's nice.
Does it cost as much as the Lewis leathers you were checking out in Old Compton Street in Soho?
I think that's more your kind of fashion kind of end now, is the Lewis leathers. It's the brand. It's a lovely kind of old-fashioned, nice. It smelled nice as well.
Oh, yeah, it would.
Yeah.
A shop full. This is Josh Brooks then on the Milwaukee Yamaha. Is he going to, well, he's obviously going to set, because he's always first man out on track. He's going to set the benchmark then as he wicks it through Woodcut Bend and across the finishing line where there's still a hint of spray. 2 minutes 15.414. He sets the first time. Mason once again quicker behind him. 2 minutes 14.2.
Yeah, that's not as quick as they were going with the intermediate fronts on, so expect those times to drop a little bit, although the time's running out.
Kianari is about to go quicker. Kianari, with 2 pink spots on his timing screen, is about to leather his way into pole position. Keogh crosses the line. 2 minutes 10.93. Now that is quick. Everybody else in the 2 minute 14s. Mason, Kirkham, Walker. This is Shaky Byrne. What's Byrne up to? He's not going to go quite as quick, certainly, as Kianari. He crosses the line. He is 7th quickest with a 2:22.
Yeah, but Shane Byrne, the man we're watching now, only looked to get going about midway around, about halfway around that.
But
Go on, you're going to say something. I stopped talking, you looked at me like I should shut up, and then you didn't say anything there.
It was
Get it out, man.
Paul Bird's amazing haircut. He said Emma had sent him to the barbers in Tenerife.
Dan Linfoot. Now, where's Dan? He's down there in 9th at the minute, but he's on a personal best, but you would expect that because it's only probably his 3rd lap, and we've only got 2 minutes left. Short session, this one.
It isn't half a short session. He goes across the line behind, and he's 4th quickest. Goes across the line, 4th quickest. Ellison 7th on number 77, just ahead of him. The two Kawasaki's together.
Yeah, and you get a slow rider, even though Ellison isn't going to be much slower than Linfoot at the minute. It's difficult because it's difficult to get past. You've got to run off the dryer of the track to get past. It's it doesn't. Maybe it would have been better just giving himself a bit more space there by letting Ellison get in front.
At the moment, a front row would read Kianari, Mason, Kirkham on the Halsell Biker Gear Kawasaki, and the tall Derbyshman is ahead of Linfoot, Walker and Brooks. And this is Kianari looking supremely confident on the build-based BMW, currently with a colossal 3.2-second advantage.
Yeah, he's on a quick one, but Mason's also on a quick one. At the midpoint, Mason is on for...
he's lost it.
Yeah, he's lost it because Kianari's gone quicker at that point. So he hasn't lost it, he's actually just been beaten by Kianari in that mid-sector.
So that's good. So still, we're watching Kianari. James, you can see there's almost a slight hesitation and a double prong tip into some of these turns. It's not easy in these conditions.
No, it's not easy, and the sort of pressure to not make any mistakes whatsoever, because you'll be punished for it, is immense as well. Mason's gonna have a look. Mason might.
2 minutes 11.5.
Nearly quickest, yeah, sorry, yeah.
And Kianari, 2 minutes 10.1. Those two way clear then.
Yep.
Brooks on a 2 minute 13. No, Kirkham back into 3rd place with a 2 minutes 12.6. Brooks currently heading up row 3 with 2 minutes 13.7. This is Shaky Byrne crossing the line now, and he goes into 3rd place. 2 minutes 12.468. So yeah, Kianari, Mason, Byrne.
And 25 seconds left. He's going to get another lap, and that's probably going to be quicker for Byrne. Many other people on this lap are not going to get an extra one because the checker flag's going out in 15.
Deviser's very own Tommy Bridewell wonders where it went wrong at Farm as he watches what's going on out on track. This is James Ellison currently in 9th place, therefore at the back of the 3rd row of the grid. He'll be joined on that 3rd row by Westmoreland and Linford unless he can get a bit quicker than that.
This is Ellison's last lap because the checkered flag's just gone out. There it is.
Ellison crosses the line. He moves to 6th place. Ellison moves 6th. Linfoot right behind him stays in 9th with a 2 minute 14.9. Good effort by Ellison. He moves into 6th place and therefore onto the 2nd row of the grid with Brooks and Kirkham.
Virtually everybody else except for Ellison, Linfoot, and obviously Bridewell sat in the garage having broken his bike, is still on a lap that's going to count, including this man, Shane Byrne.
So Shaky Byrne, number 67, Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki, the 3-time British Superbike champion, currently on a faster lap than he's done so far, which is a 2 minute 12.4, needs to drop about... Oh, God, he's got about 2.2 seconds he's got to find on Kianari.
Nearly dropped the bike, though, there. He doesn't want to be doing that.
And he's just putting big effort in now on this superb Silverstone circuit as he comes round the tricky right-hander at Aintree that opens out there. This is the long right-hander that almost double apexes onto the Wellington Straight. And then it's full haul up to 170 miles an hour before you have to back it off for the second gear left-hander at Brooklands. Shaky goes in for that early apex into the final complex. Kianari, Mason and Shaky Byrne currently on the front row, so he's got a front row start already guaranteed, the Kawasaki rider. Can he improve in his position on the front row? Westmoreland's ahead of him. He's currently in 8th place, looking to improve. Shaky comes across the line, and he goes 2nd. Shaky nicks 2nd place from Gary Mason. Westmoreland nicks 6th place. So he goes 6th, ahead of Walker and Ellison and Linfoot. So good effort by Westmoreland. He ends up in 6th place, so he will be on the 2nd row of the grid alongside John Kirkham and Josh Brooks.
Good.
And Sean Muir not looking thrilled with all that.
He's looking more thrilled than Shane Muir.
Yes.
Gary Mason gets top award from me. Yeah. Front row for Gary Mason. Good, well done, lad.
And Gary Mason is making his comeback, of course, to the British Superbike paddock, and he's Kianari, Byrne and Gary Mason on the Qingdao WK Kawasaki. They're on the front row of the grid. Kirkham, Brooks, Westmoreland on row 2. Chris Walker, James Ellison and Dan Linfoot on the 3rd row. And Tommy Bridewell will front the 4th row of the grid after that early departure from qualifying 3. Dan Linfoot takes the plaudits of the crowd here, but really a little disappointing for Linny down in 9th place. Gives himself a bit of work to do on Pete Extence's Quattro Plant Kawasaki. Remember, he's one of the showdown contenders. This man isn't, John Kirkham, but he will start from the right behind the pole man on the front, on the 2nd row of the grid. So a terrific ride by the Derbyshireman. He gets Martin Halsel's Kawasaki into 4th place. Alongside him on that 2nd row will be Josh Brooks and James Westmoreland. But you've got to say that this is a delighted Gary Mason.
Yeah, you would be, look. Yeah.
Do you know, James, I get the impression Gary's enjoying himself more with this kind of little comeback than he tended to get a bit intense when he was in his full-time career, and it didn't always seem to work in his favour.
Did you notice that too? He was the most intense man in the paddock, was Gary. Cracking motocross rider as well as Gary, but yeah, I think you're right. I think there's less pressure, not expected necessarily to be doing what he's doing. Certainly punching above his weight in that session there was Gary in front row. He deserved. He had to master the conditions. He did that, and good luck to him.
So as the riders come off track, this is Kianari. He has put the build-based BMW on pole position. Alongside him is his great rival in the War for 4, as he and Shaky Byrne go for a 4th British Superbike title. So build-based BMW and Yuichi Kianari are on pole position for tomorrow's 2 races here at Silverstone. Shaky Byrne will start from the 2nd row in the first race, from 2nd place in the first race alongside Gary Mason. John Kirkham, Josh Brooks and James Westmoreland will be on the 2nd row. Chris Walker, James Ellison and Dan Linfoot on the 3rd row, and Tommy Bridewell will head up row 4. So all of these 6 showdown contenders are there in that top 10. And that's going to make for a pretty intriguing racing tomorrow in this superb MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship, in which we've got 8 different nationalities contending for honours. And with weather like this, where else do you need to be? If you can't make it to Silverstone tomorrow, well, we'll be on air with you right the way through the day. Yuichi Kianari and Shaky Byrne then come in to get congratulated by their teams, and Yuichi seems to me to be even less kind of flappable than he ever was in his younger days, James. He's just astonishing.
Yeah, and you know, he's clicked with that team and the BMW so well. I think he's really enjoying his riding. I do. He looks to be doing. I've never seen him smile in the paddock as much.
So that's it then. Kianari on pole position. Let's get back to Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And on the front row of the grid for tomorrow's race 1, Gary Mason. Gary, you started this year's championship watching it like most people on the TV, I think, and here you are on the front row of the grid. Incredible turnaround.
No, I'm obviously really happy, and a big thanks to obviously Nick and obviously today for giving me the opportunity, and to the lads, because I had a year and a half out racing. It takes me a bit of time to get used to it. Obviously these conditions definitely play into my hands, because I'm quite brave when it comes to that, but I just need more bike time, and that's it really, bike fitness and everything, but it'll come. But like I say, a big thanks to everyone, because peaking really.
I think it was Thruxton 2009, the last time you were on the front row. It's not like you've not been there before, but what's it going to be like for you tomorrow, do you think? No,
embrace it, do the best we can. I mean, you know, we are what we are as a team, and we're doing our best to move forward. Obviously, I will struggle on to run, you know, with these guys doing 6s and things, but, you know, I'll do my best, and hopefully can drag me on so we can get like a good top 10 finish. You never know.
Congratulations on today's effort anyway. Well done, Gary.
Nice one. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
And second on the grid then for tomorrow's race 1 is Shaky Byrne. Shane, just looking there, you're the only guy on the front row of the grid who went out on an intermediate front there for that session. Was that the difference in the end?
I don't know. To be honest with you, Matt, myself and Keo are in a real difficult position, because, you know, we need to be at the front, but we can't really take any risks either. And, you know, I ran the second session with that same intermediate front tyre, and there were a few places on the track that were quite wet, and I thought, You know, it's a little bit of security. Okay, outright performance-wise, it's not quite as good as a slick front, but yeah, it's one of those difficult calls. You know, do you go safe and sort of be there or thereabouts, or you know, do you put slicks in and maybe crash on a damp patch? You know, so I erred on the side of caution a little bit, and just really happy to be on the front row. So great job by the team. Thanks to me. Thanks to everybody that helps us out, and fingers crossed for tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope there's no decisions like that to be made. Thanks, Shane.
Oh, please.
Okay, well, he was certainly rewarded for his decision this afternoon. Keo, you start from pole position tomorrow. It was a brave decision in the end, it seems, maybe to go with the slick front and rear in that final session.
Yeah, kind of gamble, you know. After Q2, I thought this is better, because when I choose cut slick into Q2, I did many slide, many spinning, many nearly crash. That's why Q3 must be try slick. But then finally, you know, feelings better and lap time better than Q2, and we got pole position. I'm very happy.
Thanks, Keo. Well done.
Thank you.
So Ryuichi Kiyanari will start race one from pole position tomorrow. It's a very interesting front row of the grid indeed. Can't wait for that. But next up, we've got the British Super Sports Sprint Race. Don't miss it. It's after the break.
Really seriously by the teams running in various world championship classes, and so for a lot of the foreign riders, it's especially the Americans and Australians, they see it as a shop window for furthering their career into a world championship series.
So there's former Swedish champion and a former competitor in the IDM German International Championship, Philip Backlund, enjoying, of course, a bit of a surprise introduction to British Superbikes after being in the Super Stock class. Where was it here at Silverstone? He took his first victory last year in Super Stock. It might well have been. And he, of course, got the opportunity when the team parted company with Ian Hutchinson to give himself a chance at having a look at what it felt like being on a Superbike. And here he is setting the fastest first decent time, 2 minutes 25.269, which is about 15 seconds quicker than Brooks did in the soaking wet conditions earlier. So conditions obviously a lot better than that. This is Chris Walker, one of the top 6 showdown fighters.
Yeah, tailing Ben Wilson. Like I said, Ben, the number 15 Kawasaki, there's been on his bum this morning. Nothing too much to shout about. He got up and picked the bike up and got it back via the access road. So yeah, not a lot of damage there, just slid off.
At the moment, Philip Backlund, Gary Mason on the Qingdao WK Racing Kawasaki, and Jenny Tinmouth 1, 2 and 3, with Jenny putting in a 2 minutes 28.9. Walker goes 4th behind the young lady with a 2 minute 29.3. Ben on a 2 minutes 30.1. Ellison's out there as well, and Kiyanari pops in second fastest time with a 2 minutes 26.35. And there is his enigmatic team boss, Mr. Stuart Hicken.
We have just had a couple of races here. There's been a Tri-Options Triumph race and Tri-Options Ducati race, and also the Triumph Triple Challenge. And in both of those races, it's been obviously very similar conditions. You've just been out on track, a lot of crashing, and the Superbike riders have seen that, and so they'll be really taking it steady. The last thing you want, especially when it's a single bike kind of system we've got going on, you've got to run the bike that you're riding basically and fix it if you bend it.
Hamptonshire in absolutely beautiful, shining weather, the sort of weather we've been used to for the past 6 or 8 weeks here in the United Kingdom, with John Hopper Hopkins, the Californian, who is a former rostrum finisher, of course, in MotoGP, former 4th place man for Suzuki in MotoGP. Ahead of him, number 4, Dan Linfoot, currently in 2nd place. Dan Linfoot in 2nd place at the moment. Hopper, who has put himself on pole position here, of course, back in 2011 in a World Superbike race as a wild card, and enjoyed some success in the World Superbike arena with the Stiggy Motorsports team, remember, a Swedish-backed team.
Yep, it was a Suzuki he put on pole, though. It wasn't the Stiggy bike, just as a wild card, like you say.
So dropping now into Cox Corner. This is the fast, well, in normal conditions, he'd be going through here at about 85 miles per hour in 3rd gear, but obviously things slightly sketchier at the moment, disappearing over the horizon at 160 in 5th gear. And then this fantastic section of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel curves that all just conjoin one another and fling you out onto the 180-mile-an-hour Hanger Straight. And this is Hopkins going through, avoiding, I would think, the white lines and the curves in these conditions, James.
Absolutely, and trying to stick to the drier parts of the track as well, because it's very patchy at the minute. It is drying out, obviously, it's not raining anymore, the sun's out, but certainly lots of this track is still wet. You see him going through a big puddle there.
This is the situation at the moment. We've got Backlund fastest, Linfoot, Chianari, Byrne, Kirkham, Walker, Ellison, Julian De Costa on the Honda Fireblade, Gary Mason is 9th, Stuart Easton in 10th. Down in the hot seat, 17th place, and it's wonderful to welcome him back. The dashing Dane Robin Harms, number 127, is 17th. Aaron Zanotti is 18th. Christophe Ponson just outside that vital top 18. And of course, we also have Josh Brooks in 22nd place. Josh predicted that this beautiful weather would sweep over us this afternoon. Keogh was even laughing when he got back to the garage, having slung the bike up the road at Stowe Corner. He never got back out in the wet. But now, of course, conditions are entirely different. He was fastest in the dry in free practice 1 and free practice 2. Almost inevitably, this man, the ever-enthusiastic Josh Brooks, was fastest in the wet. Even though it was pouring with rain at 11 o'clock this morning, he was first man out on track. And he was the man who stormed to fastest time in the wet, ahead of Howie Mainwaring and James Ellison. Would you believe, oh, you probably will believe, it's exactly 66 years and 1 day since the inaugural RAC British Grand Prix heralded the introduction of motorsport to this particular corner of Northamptonshire, the beautiful wide-open spaces of the Silverstone airfield. And we're back here for the penultimate round of the 2014 MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship. Shaky Byrne, your championship leader by 12 points. John Hopkins, another man who has been in the ballpark around the top 4 during the course of dry weather practice yesterday morning and this afternoon, yesterday afternoon, James. So
yeah,
looking good.
Yeah, didn't choose to go out for many laps in the wet earlier today, as many of the riders stayed in the garage just to see. The track was really slippy, and those that did go out, quite a few of them dropped off. Howie Mainwaring going well, as you say. He slung it down the road at turn 1. Got back up, no damage, as did Ben Wilson as well. So there was a little bit of crashing. What they reckon is there's something about the new and the old surfaces, the way they work. The new tarmac holds the water a little bit more, doesn't dry out as quick, and they think a little bit less grippy in conditions like this. It's drying fast now because the sun's out, but it's held the water all day virtually.
Danny Button was actually saying, why didn't they resurface the old part when they did the new part, and then it would all grip evenly? And
I said,
well, a good point, Danny, but would you have the money to do that?
I was just going to say, you know, they don't get people around with a transit van doing it. It does actually cost a few quid, all this job. And Danny's got money. He's family money. He'd have done the whole lot.
John Hopkins looking like he doesn't want to rush out yet, because the conditions still are slightly changeable out there. As we check out Jenny Tinmouth, welcome back, the lovely lady from Ellesmere Port in Cheshire, making her return to the track. And I tell you what, that made Terry sit up and take notice. A great fan of Jenny Tinmouth as she appears on screen.
We all are.
I've already had a quick word with Philip Backlund, James, to tell him that after his astonishing performance at Assen, pressure on his shoulders now. We're expecting something from the Swede on the FFX Yamaha
Speaking
number
of,
8.
Yep.
And I was chatting to him. He was in the midst of his bicycle pre-race warm-up. He's on a static bike in the back of the garage for 20 minutes to get himself fully warmed up, both in mind and body.
That's not about the warming up. They've actually got a generator on there. He's boiling the kettle, Jack. That's what he's doing.
Well, he certainly passes it off as a good way to get himself ready and warmed up to go. And I think the kettle will have boiled many times over, and he's ready to boil himself out on track. So Philip Backlund, after that, he says conditions are what they are. It's not that he particularly enjoys racing in wet conditions or damp conditions. It's just that he just accepts whatever's out there.
Yeah, and to be honest, nobody really enjoys racing in the wet. It's uncomfortable. Your leathers get wet, and it's just sometimes cold, as it was this morning here. But the fact is, you enjoy the result if you think the wet weather gives you a better chance of getting a result, or a better result than what you'll get in the dry.
He is one, James, get this, of 8 different nationalities out here in the British Superbike Championship. We've got 10, shall we say, foreign riders out of a total entry today of 27. That's quite impressive. Over 1/3 of visitors to our sceptred isle.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is it's a brilliant championship, but the foreign riders see it as a big stepping stone. They're taking it fairly steady, and the track condition is changing every single lap because the sun's out now and it's going to be generally getting drier every time you go around. But really the last thing you want to do at this point is throw your bike up the road.
Shaky Byrne goes second quickest behind Backlund with a 2:25.808. Just going on what you said just then, I was struck by how many of the lads were sitting in their garage intently watching the Triumph race before they went out here.
Exactly. You can glean quite a lot from watching the previous races to yours, especially when conditions are like that, you know, especially when they already know from this morning, the Superbike guys know that there's certain parts of the track fairly slippy, others hold the water, and others a little bit more grip. So, yeah, you want to see where the riders are in the previous races to yours are falling down and take a bit more caution on those bits of the track.
So this is Philip Backlund, the fastest man out on track at the moment, so already living up to that reputation he's set himself, the 24-year-old from Sweden, who finished third in last year's Superstock 1000 National Championship, scoring his one victory here at Silverstone. So this is a guy who's going to enjoy himself out here. He goes quicker, 2 minutes 23.038. He's well clear as Hopkins decides to go out.
Yeah, Backlund will be making the most of the sunshine because he probably won't see much sun when he gets back to Sweden. It's dark for the majority of the winter up there.
Hopkins decides to venture out into the sunshine as we watch the Milwaukee Yamaha of number 3, Josh Brooks. This, of course, is a 20-minute session of qualifying one, and that 18 riders go through into the 12-minute second session. So 18 riders out of 27 to go through. Welcome back to Silverstone in, dare I call it, the South Midlands here in North